Is it true that Prime Minister Viktor Orban is traveling to Moscow tomorrow to hold talks with Russian President Putin?
I cannot confirm that. As usual, we will provide information according to standard practice.
But you're not ruling out that he might travel, as usual?
We will provide information according to standard practice. I am neither confirming nor denying anything.
Mr. X, is it true that Prime Minister Viktor Orban is traveling to Moscow tomorrow to hold talks with Russian President Putin?
I cannot confirm that. As usual, we will provide information according to standard practice.
But you're not ruling out that he might travel, as usual?
We will provide information according to standard practice. I am neither confirming nor denying anything.
Thank you. If it turns out, as the news suggests, that the Prime Minister will travel to Moscow and holds talks with President Putin about peace, will he propose an immediate ceasefire, or will he raise the issue of the frozen Russian assets being blocked?
I can speak in general terms about the Hungarian position, and the Hungarian position is that the American peace plan should be supported. The Americans' intention is clear. They want a peace agreement, and they believe that a ceasefire by itself without an agreement is not lasting, and we support the American efforts.
Thank you. Dan Driscoll, Steve Witkoff, Marco Rubio, Viktor Orban. If, as expected, this meeting takes place tomorrow, what strong argument does the Prime Minister have if, for example, he is sitting at the negotiating table in the Kremlin across from President Putin in favor of peace or in support of a peace plan, in support of signing it?
Since you mentioned important members of the American government, including high-ranking officials and key decision-makers, as well as their special envoys who are specifically tasked with and responsible for preparing, negotiating, and facilitating the peace agreement, the first and foremost thing I would like to make absolutely clear is that the Hungarian government is fully aware of its position, knows its place in the international community, understands what it has the strength, capacity, and resources to do, and also recognizes what it does not have the ability or authority to accomplish. Therefore, Hungary supports the United States peace plan, but we do not believe that Hungary can bring about peace in a conflict where not a single great power has succeeded so far. And now it is the new American administration that has the most realistic chance to achieve this. But our commitment to peace follows the Hungarian national interest, so we believe that it is in the interest of Europe as a whole, but especially of the Central European region and Hungary, for peace to be established as soon as possible. Therefore, any agreement that guarantees not only a ceasefire but also the definitive and lasting end of the war, whether in the long term or even in the much longer term, is something that Hungary will fully and unequivocally support. However, it is important to emphasize that we do not believe, nor do we have any illusions, that we could ever take the place of the Americans in this regard, or that Hungary could realistically come close to matching the immense strength, influence, and capabilities of that country when it comes to the complex and challenging task of creating and maintaining peace.
Thank you. The other topic is the meeting in Subotica, right? The Prime Minister is negotiating with President Vučić about the energy crisis, but at the same time, there is also talk about MOL acquiring a stake in the Serbian oil company. On one hand, and as you mentioned, starting Monday, oil shipments from Hungary to Serbia will increase 2.5 times. On what conditions is your government considering MOL's acquisition, if it is being considered at all?
It is not the government's responsibility, but MOL's, to examine MOL's acquisition. And if any state assistance is needed, then of course the Hungarian state is willing to consider it, but there is also the possibility of a normal market transaction. But these negotiations are currently ongoing. Let me say it once more. It is in the interest of the NIS's company that Russian ownership does not persist, because the sanctions and consequently the resulting economic difficulties are caused by this. And one possibility for this is if MOL takes on a bigger role, but MOL is a market-based company, so it can only take part, buy a stake, if there is a market basis for it.
This significantly increases oil shipments to Serbia by 2.5 times. How does this impact domestic supply?
It does not affect the security of domestic supply.
I have many questions. Donald Trump told journalists that a peace agreement for Ukraine is very close, relatively close, and that Volodymyr Zelensky has already accepted the terms of the American peace plan. What does this mean for the Budapest Peace Summit? Peace, is it closer?
Earlier, when the Budapest Peace Summit was discussed, it was clear that there was not yet enough agreement between the parties for the summit to be successful, which is why it was postponed, why it did not take place at that time. But there was one thing on which both the American and Russian sides were in complete agreement. If there is going to be a peace summit, it will be held in Budapest. But I would like to emphasize again that for us, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that there should be peace. Where the peace is signed, obviously, it would be symbolic if this were done in Budapest, and we would be glad if we could contribute to it in any way. But the main point is not the location, but peace itself.
We currently have ongoing contacts and communications with the evangelical side regarding the possibility of arranging a meeting in the near future. And as always, we are genuinely happy and pleased to welcome any of our valued partners and associates in Russia, including, despite their sometimes aggressive and confrontational behavior, our European colleagues and counterparts. But all the more so Viktor Orban, we know his position. In my opinion, he is quite objective. He is precisely one of those people who see the realities on the ground and based on those realities formulate their political position. We also have bilateral issues. We have extensive cooperation in the energy sector, not to mention the Pax nuclear power plant. And there are issues there that require further discussion. This specifically concerns the fuel that is used for the power plant. For instance, in Ukraine, as an example, they have used American fuel in their facilities. However, we are not opposed to this practice at all. It's just that the fuel rods started to go, the pipes began to bend. This led to an emergency situation. That's why everything here needs to be thoroughly calculated. This is a serious issue. But there are also many other bilateral issues. And if Prime Minister Orban considers it possible to accept our invitation, we are always glad to welcome him.